So I will now open the regular meeting of the Palmer Valley Healthcare District Board of Directors for Wednesday, October 29th, 2025. And I will ask Rosie to give us a roll call.
Director Fox. Here. Director Friel. Here. Director Gallagher.
Here.
Director Pimentel.
Here.
Attorney Hughes.
Here. Okay, we did not have a closed session, so there's nothing to report for a closed session. Any agenda modifications for consideration from staff?
Potentially one, depending on how long items 1 through 5 take. We can't start item number 6 until exactly 7 o'clock or slightly after, so the board might want to give permission, unless we talk slowly on items 1 through 5, to go out of order a little bit and do item 7 or 8 before item 6.
Can we make our way through the consent calendar and then come back to that?
Yep.
Okay. I will talk very slow. Okay, so no agenda modifications for consideration from staff. I will now open up to public comment on matters not on tonight's healthcare district agenda. Anyone online wishing to speak on something not on tonight's agenda?
No hands online.
Okay. Anyone in the public wishing to speak on items? Please.
We've talked about this, but she's not here. But if you see June Ponce, she has done a fantastic job, right? So we're getting stuff in for the OR, and we finally got the 4th anesthesia machine up on second floor. So we're getting things in, and a lot of it is thanks to June and the foundation and the donors and the support. So if you see her, tell her, go June.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on matters not on tonight's agenda? Okay, so I will close down the public comment and I will now take any comments from our board members. Any comments from the board members? I do have some, but I'll open up to this. Okay, I do have just a few comments and I'll try to speak slowly so I can take up the 3 minutes. I just want to echo my my fellow board member Marcus Pimentel and just send a big hug to our good friend Marcela Tavantes, a former board member of the Palmer Valley Healthcare District as well, for losing her partner recently. And Jesse was actually around at our first couple of board meetings when Marcella was appointed. And so, you know, Marcella, I have yet to reach out to you, but I know that I will soon. And just our heart goes out to you and to your family right now through this really difficult time. I appreciate your work, and not only for what you've done in the healthcare district, but also for the city of Watsonville, stepping in various capacities, as Marcus said earlier, to serve this community and to move us forward. So just thank you for everything, and our heart goes out to you. I also want to acknowledge just another big loss in our community, and I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the loss of our former Watsonville Mayor Manuel Bersamin, who passed away recently, just suddenly had a heart attack. And Manuel, Manny, Mayor Bersamin, as a lot of people know him, was just an excellent and amazing advocate for everything that this healthcare district stands for, and made history becoming the first Filipino mayor in Watsonville history. Filipino culture here in Watsonville has really deep ties and really historic roots in this community. And I know that even aside from making that historic achieving that historic moment of being elected to the mayorship and to the city council, Mayor Bersamin and Manny, as many people knew him, did amazing things for the city of Watsonville. And even when he was off the board, off the city council, did amazing things throughout the community as well to move us forward. And so just our hearts go out to both of those two families, the Bersamin family and the Tavantes family. Just thank you for your service to Watsonville. Thank you for your service to the community, and just appreciate all of you. I also want to give thanks to the Santa Cruz, to the Community Foundation of Santa Cruz County. Last week, I was invited as the representative both for my employer, Community Bridges, and also for the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District Foundation, Watsonville Community Hospital Foundation. And thank you to June for also being there with me. I was invited to be on a panel to speak about some of the impacts of HR1, both from the social service providers in this area, and also the impacts that it's going to have on healthcare. We were able to speak to about 55 local donors and community members and other nonprofit representatives in that donor forum. And we're able to speak to them about the sort of impacts that are going to have a cascading effect on our community as it relates to HR1. So just thank you to Susan, to Kevin, to everyone over at the Community Foundation team for putting that together and for always being responsive as to what our community needs and what our community, what sort of advocacy efforts they can continue to help us with in terms of getting dollars to where they're most needed, especially in times of emergency. And someone over the Community Foundation, I won't name names, said it very well, that we've had emergencies strike this area, and we are now emergencies and disasters strike this area for several decades and for several years. And now we're facing another disaster caused by the federal administration right now. So just thank you to Susan and to the Community Foundation team for gathering those folks and for allowing me to speak on behalf of the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District and Community Bridges. I also want to just say that, we understand the impacts that are going to happen to our community as a result of HR1, both from the reductions to Medi-Cal and the eventual impact that will have with Medicare and other healthcare health insurances and the rest of the healthcare industry. There's also several cuts to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, CalFresh here in the state of California. And I know that there will be many people in our community as well that are going to deal with the negative repercussions of the current government shutdown. And so just want to put it out there into the community for those who are watching it back later or on, with us here today, that those folks who do have their SNAP benefits, CalFresh benefits impacted by the government shutdown, Second Harvest Food Bank is gearing up to meet that need. And I know that us over at Community Bridges through Meals on Wheels for Santa Cruz County and other programs as well are also gearing up to meet that need, hopefully in the short term, and there won't be an elongated delay of benefits for those folks who depend on those SNAP benefits to make ends meet. And so, just want to acknowledge just the sort of pain that these sort of pausing or halting of benefits might create for our community, and just let people know that there are resources out there. So please, do not hesitate to reach out. And I know that our team here as well does such a great job of signing people up for Medi-Cal, also doing all of the resource navigation as well as they're being discharged. And I know that our team will continue to do that as we continue to go on, which I hope will be an end to this current government shutdown so that we can continue on with business and folks can receive the assistance that they need. Please, Dr. Elder.
It's a measure in comment, tax bill for 2020, real estate tax bill came. And it was right around $100, so it was as expected, and pretty happy to pay $100 measure in.
Right. Thank you. So those are my comments. Any other, I'll open it back up to the board just in case there are any other comments that we'd like to make before we move on to the consent agenda. Okay, I will close down the comments from our board members and I'll move on to the consent agenda unless we have to move forward now to item number 7. No? Think we're okay?
No, I think we
We
can.
need
Okay.
to move on to the public hearing.
To the public
Yeah,
hearing
we'll circle
at
back.
7.
Oh,
Okay, so do I need to make a motion or can we just move on to item number 6 to the public hearing?
I think we can just move on to the public
Okay.
hearing. It's good.
Okay, so I will move us on to the public hearing that's scheduled for 7 p.m. This is item number 6. This is the third public hearing requesting public input regarding the composition of the potential Pajaro Valley Healthcare District board election zones. The contact here is Stephen, and I think Stephen will tee it up for Doug to give us a presentation.
Yeah, so this is our third public hearing for the redistricting of, our district and, dividing the district into election zones. And the first two hearings, we've received feedback from the board and from the public, and the public has also had other opportunities to give input. And so today is the day when Doug gets to present some draft maps for reaction from the public and the board. Doug.
So, good evening, and it's a pleasure to be with you again virtually. And yes, as you just heard, this is the meeting where it starts to get interesting with draft maps. So I will jump in first with a quick refresh and reminder in case we have anyone new. As you just heard, this is the third hearing. There was a community forum as well, where people had the chance to come in person and learn about the process and share their thoughts about neighborhoods and communities. All the maps I'm going to show you were posted actually over a week ago. So they have been posted for the statutorily required time, and hopefully folks have had a chance to take a look at them. And as you noted here, this is the first hearing on draft maps. We will be doing a forum next week, a virtual forum, where again, the community will have an informal chance to go through the maps and share their thoughts. And then there'll be a second hearing November 19th. So this isn't the final say on the maps. Really what we're looking at today is the starting point. So these are to get you thinking about the maps, and we fully welcome any thoughts, concerns. And often what ends up happening is folks like one part of one map and another part of another map. So they ask us to blend the two, and we would come back at the next hearing with blended versions of those maps. So don't look at these as done and finished maps. These are just starters to get you going. And then if we're ready on the 19th to select a map, it can be adopted that evening. Otherwise, we take a break for the holidays and come back January 28th for adoption. And again, as was mentioned, the first two hearings, in terms of our criteria, first in the top left, you've got our federal laws. Each zone has to have an equal number of people, and it is total people, not registered voters or anything like that. It's total people counted by the census. We have to comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act and avoid any racial gerrymandering, so race cannot be the predominant factor in how a map is drawn or why it's chosen. Then we have the California criteria in the middle. I've been through these at the earlier hearings, so I'll go through them briefly. Of course, the zones have to be contiguous. Then we want to avoid as much as possible dividing neighborhoods and communities of interest. We want to avoid dividing any cities or census designated places. The census designated places are essentially the unincorporated communities as identified by the Census Bureau. Then we want to follow easily identifiable boundaries like rivers, major roads, things like that. And the last California requirement is to be compact, not to go around one group of people to get to another group. And in the top right, a very important requirement, California also prohibits adopting or drawing a map for the purpose of favoring or discriminating against an incumbent, a political candidate, or a political party. So I've drawn these without knowing where any of the board members or potential candidates live in order to be sure we stay safe on that. And then in the unlikely event that we have two maps that are essentially identical on all those statutory requirements, then you can consider things that the courts have called traditional redistricting principles, like future population growth or other local considerations. So that's kind of where we came from and how we got here. And we'll jump in with the maps. And I do want to emphasize, as noted in the bottom right, there is the interactive review map, and I can switch over to that, which lets us zoom in and zoom out and search for specific addresses, and also to put a satellite image and things like that on it. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at that, or we can also do that live during this meeting. But first I'll start with the green map. This map, as you can see in the inset map in the bottom left, it's really a blend. So we have two seats, 1 and 5, that are completely rural, relatively. They're outside of the city of Watsonville. Then we have 2 that are completely inside the city of Watsonville, 2 and 3. And then 4 is that blend that has much of the city and some of the rural area. So this is really taking a look at blending, 2 out, 2 in, and 1 that mixes. And the borders of 3 look a little odd. I'm the first to admit that, but that's because in the west, we're following the river. And then down in the southern part, it's really following that kind of stair step on its southern edge. It's following the city border there. So that's why that's there. And then it's following the railroad track out to the freeway. So we get a little bit of an odd shape, but very clearly delineated. You've also got a Green Valley Road as the border in the north, and then Brennan Street over here in the east. Less of a major road over here in the east, unfortunately. But 2 is really determined just by population when we start in that northeast corner of the city and work our way down. So that's, green map was kind of a, let's blend 2, 2, and 1. And there are other ways to do that if you like the idea, but not where these lines ended up. The orange map, one of the things that came out of the community forum was the idea of a kind of a coastal area. And so in this map, we really have a coastal district 5, the orange one you see in the bottom left. Along the coast, staying out of the city is not quite enough population to be a zone all by itself. So that's why it comes around and gets Corlitas and stays in that rural area. So in this case, 5 is the only one that's completely outside the city. Then we have 4, which is completely inside the city. It's really going right to the city border and then coming into Main Street, as you can see in the larger map. And then we have 3, zone 3, which is mostly city plus the unincorporated community of Freedom. So it's fairly urban. And then 1 gets the north part of the city, and then goes out into the rural area, and 2 gets that northeast portion of the city, and then goes down into Pajaro and out into the rural area. So it's a similar mix, but giving you that coastal seat in case that's a community that makes sense. And then the last 2 are based on current maps that are already in place in the city in the case of Olive, or in the next one in the case of the school district. So this is really, Olive is really trying to follow the existing council lines. But of course, there are 7 council districts and only 5 zones. And so they don't follow perfectly. But each one starts with a council district and then adds in some rural areas. So zone 5 is really council district 6 plus a part of council district 5. Council district 5 gets divided up because of that population requirement, and we have too many council districts relative to zones. Zone 2 is council district 2, council district 7, and part of 5. And you can see it has a lot of rural area, but not very little rural population. And then the others are more closely related directly to their council district number, and then extending out to get the remaining population that they need. So Olive is really a council district based map, although of course it doesn't correspond precisely. And that's why some of these zigs and zags are in here too, because that's arms that are on the council districts. And in the interactive map, we can actually overlay the council district map itself, so you can see more closely how they match up. Then the TAN map, a similar idea, starting from an existing map. In this case, we're starting from the school trustee areas. But again, we have 7 school trustee areas and only 5 zones. So we do end up blending. Zone 1 is trustee areas 1 and 6. Zone 2, the blue, is trustee area 2 plus Pajaro, that unincorporated community of Pajaro. And then zone 3, the green, is trustee areas 3 and 7, but excluding the Watsonville city portions and Pajaro portions of trustee area 3, because population balancing can't have 2 full trustee areas. And then zone 4 is trustee area 4 plus a part of trustee area 5 for population balancing. So again, we're getting some odd shapes because of how it matches up with the trustee areas. But those are odd shapes are coming from those trustee area communities. So I do want to emphasize, you may think the following trustee areas and or council districts doesn't make sense. And so we could dump those two maps and just look at the first two I showed you. Or you might think they make sense, but we need to modify them or clean them up. Whatever you think makes sense for your jurisdiction and for the voters as they're trying to get organized in your elections is what what I and staff want to hear tonight to guide our future mapping. So both for the public and for the board, we are looking to see what you like and dislike about each map, how we can improve them, and possibly how we can mix and match them to get you to a good final map. And like I said, I'm happy to bring up the interactive map, and we also have on the website extensive demographics breaking down the renters, the Spanish speakers, and all kinds of different demographics for each zone in each map. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions and to bring up any details that would be useful for you. Oh, and
Any
oh, sorry, I
ahead.
should emphasize, we're not looking for you to pick a map, but if there are maps that don't make sense and there's consensus on that, we're happy to toss them. And we're happy to get ideas for what new maps you might want to see.
Any questions for Doug or any just overall ideas, thoughts, comments, concerns about any one of the format presented to us today, please?
I really appreciate the thoughtful nature in which these were brought forward. When you were speaking to the green one, the very first one that's in our board packet, you called out something that the little step out that goes along Riverside Drive. Anything we can do to avoid things that don't make a lot of sense, like that step out doesn't make a lot of sense to voters when they see that. And, I really liked the way Olive presents itself. It seems to have a lot more natural groupings visually and neighborhood that align itself. And I like the overlay of it with council districts. I think people in this community might think more in line with the council districts than they do school board or supervisorial districts. So I really like that concept. But anything we can do to avoid, kind of these random carve outs, and even Olive has a little bit of a carve out with 4 coming in. I assume that's graph population. If there's a way that it could be flattened out, and maybe it goes more horizontal in line with the freeway. But in general, those are my comments. Things that can avoid these strange nuance slivers would be great. But I really like the way the balance of all of it and how it presents itself. I like how it wasn't so extreme in some of the population demographics, whether it's percent Latino or income based. It was more, to a certain extent, more normalized than some of the other ones. I was hoping, I'm still looking for something that might speak to something around the place of access to care, or something that can speak to, or there's demographics here that speak to our population's ability to get care, whether it's income based, but something, it could be employment, it could be, I just don't know what are typically good data sets that are available for maps, but something that could help speak more closely to access to healthcare, or that has a more direct linear than just income or education. So those are kind of my 3 comments. But I think we're going in a really good direction. I really like how this is shaping up.
If I may, let me show you just to your question about the olive and the weird shape of zone 4 on that. Let me switch over to the interactive map, and this will give you a chance to look at how the interactive map works as well. So if I choose the olive map, it jumps out, of course, right? That piece of 4 that comes up. But if I turn on the council districts by clicking that layer, then you can see that this is Council District 4. That extension is built into Council District 4. Yep. So it is weird, but to your point, where my outside impression is that definitely agrees with you that residents are aware of which council district they are. Even though it looks a little weird on a map, I think to residents, it probably would make sense because that is how the council district looks. As opposed to the other one you were talking about on Green, where, yeah, that was just following the city line and it doesn't really match up with anything that residents would be familiar with. So I can take a look at that.
Any other, Marcus, did you want to add something to that?
No.
Any other questions or overall comments? I could always open up to a public comment and then bring it back to the board for additional comments, questions. Okay, I'll open up to public comment now. On this item, anyone online wishing to speak on this item?
No hands online.
Anyone in person wishing to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I close down the public comment on this item, bring it back to the board for additional direction or questions for Doug and the team. Don't all come at once.
I just agree that using similar areas like city council or school district seems to make more sense. Just for the community, because they know their district areas most likely. And visually, it does look like if I'm someone who doesn't know what we're doing and I just look at it, it looks visually more equal than like Orange, for example, seems like it's so much land. If I wasn't aware that there's not a lot of people in that space, the Orange map would seem unbalanced. With such small and big, but really, I don't have a lot more to contribute other than that.
Any other, please?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead, John.
my sense that, all of them except, Olive looked like it gave a substantial amount of weight to the city of Watsonville, which was an important criterion for me. And so all of it in a way diluted the city population, attaching it to other sections. So the other three maps to me made sense and I thought of them all, so I ranked them similarly. Being all of them diluted the impact of the city population.
Marcus?
A comment that another thing about all of that, they all have plus and minuses. I recognize that. From a candidate statement perspective, some of the other maps, a map that has a really small district, I would tend to think would have a higher probability of getting more people maybe interested in running for office. It's a smaller district, smaller footprint, smaller walking. It's an easier touch point versus intimidation of looking at some of these other maps and you're looking at 20 square miles wrapping around an area and trying to figure out how one person could run for office. Like, I think those areas might struggle with having people willing to put their name out there. They might feel they're really good about Corralitos, but they don't little about Ohio. So I just get into this as a preference. From an electoral candidate standpoint, we can avoid like really small, having one or two districts be really small and the others have to be much larger to grab population. I think that could be a better yield for, candidates. But, I'll defer to your experience. You have a lot more experience. Mine's very localized, but you might have more national or state experience and what impacts that certain maps have with candidates.
Yeah, it's a good point, and actually it triggers a thought in my mind, which is, as someone who lives in the city where it's denser, I think you're exactly right. They might feel uncomfortable having to get in their car and drive, 2 minutes between houses to knock on doors. Whereas someone out in Corralitos might feel more comfortable with that because that's how their life is. They have to drive 15 minutes to the grocery store. So one question I would have for the board is, maybe would it be useful to have something like Green where there are 2 rural seats, but redraw the blended and the 2 in the city so that they follow council districts? You know, they wouldn't follow them 1-to-1. It would be more like each of the 3 would be 1.5 council districts. But the boundaries, I could try to follow the council districts so they line up, if you think that'd be something that made sense, so that you do have the city seats where city people run and can walk door to door, and then the rural seats where rural people run, who are just used to the fact that people live far apart. I don't know if that, as an outsider, it's something that it might make sense, but it's certainly up to you to say, does that make sense or not?
Any other comments or questions from the board? Katie? Doug, I guess when I look at our district, I see really like 6 sort of communities. I think this is what's making it difficult for me to look at these maps and feel like these different kind of pockets of the communities are being represented in the way and are being put together in a way. To Joe's point, you know, I think it really makes sense for us to try to preserve in whichever way it makes sense and without, you know, violating any sort of population distribution expectations, is trying to ensure that the city residents are both understand what district they belong into and why they belong into, or what zone they belong into and why they are in that zone. I think that's important. And so I think initially when I looked at the Olive one, I was like, oh yeah, that kind of looks like the sort of communities that I would imagine would want to be represented together, or that I would consider a community of interest. In that, like Pajaro and Las Lomas and that portion of Monterey County has more in common in my mind that with folks in downtown Watsonville than it does with someone who lives in Pajaro Dunes, for instance. And I know that that is a balancing of the district, and, you know, speaking in political terms, that might actually be a benefit for the people in the downtown district, that they're able to say that they consider or have the residents of Pajaro Dunes within their district, and give those folks an opportunity of having representation for their zone. And so I understand the makeup of that kind of pink line in the olive one. I think though, when I think about like which one makes the most sense to me, and I think I kind of side with Marcus, with Director Pimentel, in that the green makes more sense to me. In that, like, I think that the Real Del Mar, La Selva Beach community, and even those 2 communities are extremely different from one another, but I think they have more in common with each other, one another, and the Aptos, Hills, Arkin Valley, Corralitos community. And I think the challenge for me comes in where zones 2 and 3 is, we get into like the real nitty gritty kind of minutia of where is the perfect break for those two zones as it breaks up the city of Watsonville, right? Because that's where the bulk of the city of Watsonville voters will be in this new district, save for the general area, which we are in right now next to the hospital and the airport. I think the pink or the red portion of the green map makes a ton of sense to me. And I'm wondering, Doug, if it's hard to kind of get a gauge as to what sort of impact the extension of the rail into the Monterey Salinas Transit expansion project is going to have in terms of residents and development in Pajaro. I just don't know like what that means for development in that area, and I haven't done enough studying of what that might mean in terms of new residents into that real tip of the northern Monterey County region. And I don't know if we factor that in terms of population growth for the future. And I know that only allows us to deviate maybe 500 to 1,000 residents, but that might might make a difference in terms of that green little sliver that, council member, that Director Pimentel was talking about, that like bulb out in that green number 3 zone. Was that considered in that creation of the pink zone in the green map? Sorry for all the.
No, it's a good point and a good question. It wasn't, in part because this map will be revisited by the board in 5 years. Following the 2030 census, you'll have to come back and revisit it. So at that point, we can take more of a sense of where is it gone and what's it doing. But yes, to your larger point, yes, we can use more of the allowed deviation. The green map currently is only about 5.5%. We could
Right.
use more of that to get rid of that odd finger and do some other things if you'd like.
Yeah, it's like that tail on number 3 is what's throwing me off.
Yeah.
And then I'm not sure how the rest of my fellow directors feel about number 4 and the way that it kind of swoops in Pajaro Dunes into this somewhat rural, center of Freedom Boulevard, kind of where we're at right now, going out into what is Buena Vista area. I think Buena Vista is the cutoff on that. Is that right, Doug? The top portion of that blue, blue district, I'm sorry, of the blue zone in the green map, where it says Freedom, is that Buena Vista, or what road is that that's cutting that off?
Between 4 and 5, you're talking about?
Yeah, between 4 and 5 there.
Yeah, it's a little odd. It's not an actual road, but it is. It's probably easier if I show it to you. And
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So, and one of the handy things, if folks haven't played around with this, is you can go up here to these squares, and I can call up the satellite image. So what the Census Bureau has done to draw that freedom border is really look at where the houses stop.
Right.
And so that's really the line. There's a couple of farms that get inside there, but really the residential area is here, and then you go out to farms the moment you cross that line. This also is a good way of showing your point earlier about, the heavily residential portions are in the center and eastern parts of the town, and then out here when you get the airport and the hospital, it's much less dense.
Right.
I just wanted to add here, I think after looking at them and hearing the discussion, I have a real aversion to orange.
Yeah.
Just based off of, to Director Pimentel's point of someone running for an office and going from Prunedale up to Corlitos seems like an absolute nightmare for them to try to support. Just thinking of people in the future trying to run for office and trying to get their message out to multiple people in different areas, that just seems, I see what the intent was, but I don't think I would say that would be the one. If we could say no to one, I would, redraw that. That would be that one for me. It just doesn't seem feasible.
I have one other question.
Please.
Doug, in terms of Pajaro Dunes, I think of it as a vacation community where people have second homes but don't really live there. Do you know offhand what the population of the Pajaro Dunes area is, or?
Yeah, I do have that. Let me look here. There. Just one moment as I pull that up. Pajaro Dunes. Yeah, here we go. It
Yeah, they really
is-
is. You might work to see it.
Oh, I don't have it in this map. Come back to me in 1 minute and I'll pull it up.
And then, check the green, the tail of whatever we want to call this, I guess. On the number 3 in the green map, is that easy for us to just kind of lop off that tail? And add that on to, sorry for that, and add that on to another 2, whether it be 4 or even into like the red pink, and even adding that onto the red pink one would be odd, I think, in the makeup of this. But are we losing a significant number of residents if we're chopping that?
Yes, there would need to be some small adjustments. And the reason that it's there when I was doing the first drafts is that the rest of Area 3 really follows what is that? Walker Street
Right.
nicely. And so if we take that off, we'd have to adjust either by crossing Walker or more likely probably crossing the river to make up for it. But we can certainly do that, and I can look at doing that. The other thing that might work there is to rotate 2 down. That may make sense if it's more 2 coming along the whole eastern border of the city and including that than it does for green to kind of come from the north and then weave around to it. So I can give you a couple of options for how that might work. And just on the Pajaro Dunes, yeah, you're right. The total population there, according to the census, is about 122. So,
Thank you. Hi. Okay. Let's see. I think, Doug, for me, and I'm obviously one of 5, the tan one just for me doesn't make sense. Mostly because it pairs the communities of Rio Del Mar, La Selva Beach, Pajaro Dunes, and then Las Lomas, and gets rid of Pajaro in that. And I think that's why tan doesn't make sense to me. I think we're thinking about protecting communities of interest on both sides of the end of both ends of that proposed zone. That would be a no-go for me. I just don't think that would be representative of either one of those, or representative for either one of those communities. And I think there's a ton of differences in those communities that we'd be hard pressed, I think, to get one representative that would be able to advocate for all of those folks in that one zone. I think Alex is right as well, like the northern Corralitos drive all the way down to Prunedale would be the weirdest kind of looping all the way around for folks. And so the orange one for me, because of the makeup of zone 5, it would be really difficult. Although I think I really like the makeup of 3 and 4 in that map. 3 and 4 make a lot of sense to me. Number 1 actually makes a lot of sense to me. And I say that as because of the fact that I think back to the Pajaro floods, and a lot of the folks who were receiving those warnings and who were impacted by the floods around that creek area are in that zone 1, right? So they're rural in the same sort of meaning as rural, as someone in the Clifford Avenue kind of eastern portion of Clifford Avenue is the same sort of rural as someone living in the Inner Lake and Amesti area. They're dealing with some of the same issues. And the makeup of number 2 on orange, though, it concerns me that, you know, the Pajaro and Las Lomas communities that are predominantly not active around voting time and are paired with what is the most active part of our community and our district around voting time in Watsonville is that on the city council, it's District 7, and that is our senior, community, right? Kind of conflicting for for me there on that blue orange. And so I think because of the makeup of 2 and because of 5, orange is just not working for me in the same way that tan is not working for me because of some of the conflicts there. But there's bits and pieces that I like of orange, and it has to do with the makeup of 3 and 4. I really like how much sense they make when I look at them, and I understand like, oh yeah, those portions of Watsonville and Buena Vista Freedom area make a lot of sense to be paired together. That's my feedback for right now.
Well, let me ask, is there
Yeah.
consensus on kind of backburnering orange and tan? Or is there anyone that wants to keep it? What we tend to do, we never take anything completely off the table. I would say no decision's final until it's all final. But what we tend to do at the next meeting is refer to focus maps, where we'd be focusing on olive and green and a couple of revisions to each of those that from the comments you made tonight. And orange and tan would stay on the website, but they would not be a focus of the next meeting unless some resident or board member wanted to bring them back into focus. So I don't know if there's any board members that like either one of those, and that's fine. We can keep them in the focus, but if you're unanimous, I'm happy to focus this.
I'll say, olive and green are the 2 that are leaping out
I agree.
far from the rest for all the reasons we've identified. I'm eager to see a combination of olive and green. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
I'd like the color orange to come back. They're been a good run, 2010 for baseball team.
Doug, in olive, that's the one, if I remember correctly, that the makeup of the Watsonville centered ones it aligns with the districts of the city council. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so that's why that little red kind of at Freedom Main Street intersection, right? There's like those 2 blocks there. They look like they should be in 2, but they're in 1, right? That's, I think in the city council map, it's the exact same thing. There's like those little 2 streets blocks that are included in that.
Exactly. I suspect that when they were population balancing the council map, that's where they had to cross the street to get the right population numbers.
Okay, understood.
And I have a comment about all of it. It really is that alignment with the council districts that is really intriguing to me. It would be easy to explain to voters to the extent that that's possible.
Right. Doug, if I could ask just a more like process question for you. I'm a creative, I'm a writer, and so I tend to put the first thing that I do, it's usually ends up being the best. Which one was the first one that you put together? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, I'm a little different I come up with a couple of ideas. So really I've made a list of, okay, I want to draw a map that follows council districts. I want to follow a map that follows trustee areas. I want to follow one that blends two and two, 2 in, 2 out. So I made that list first and then kind of addressed each one individually. So really, these are the best versions in each of those categories. I actually drew, 6 or 8 altogether.
Right.
Yeah. And I always emphasize too, I know the data and the process and the tools, but ultimately you all know your local neighborhoods better than I ever could. So in the end, your decision is what we're really looking for.
Right. Okay, so I'll kind of recap the conversation, if that's okay, then, okay. So, definitely leaning towards, the board is leaning towards and likes, more aspects of green and olive, than orange and what's the other one, tan? So definitely the two maps of interest or of focus, I should say, for the next kind of round of revision should be those two. In green, the concerns that I remember one brought up, that I brought up was kind of the tail there end of number 3, the green version or the green zone in green. And in olive, for me, I remember the concern that I had in olive was just the pairing of Pajaro Dunes with Las Lomas and Pajaro, but and a big swath of downtown Watsonville, but I understand the why that might be a good thing for those two communities of interest respectively. And then I believe Director Pimentel also had or was asking for that, I don't even know what to call it, that little running up from, it looks like Clifford Avenue on 4 on the purple. If there's any alternatives to that, and knowing that that aligns with the Watsonville City Council district. And so taking that and possibly balancing that into these new zones. Was there anything else that I was missing?
Again, there, I think I keep trying to ask this question and I Google and it doesn't help. Quad is somewhat helpful, but an available data set that can directly speak to healthcare outcomes or healthcare access or healthcare equity. Again, I think the data sets we have here, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, are good. AIDS, immigration, voter registration, definitely. Household language, like those are all good, but if you can just, take a stab and see if there's a data set that might come in there and help us look at these maps from access to healthcare or healthcare outcomes. I want to see districts that are balanced in that. If that's possible.
Yeah.
So Doug, there is Data Share Santa Cruz,
Yeah, there
which
is.
has a few dozen of their healthcare access metrics are broken out by census tract. The ones that are by county or by zip code are not helpful in this instance, but there are a few that are broken out by census tract, and those may be helpful for overlaying.
Okay. You said it's Data Share Santa Cruz?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll check that out. Yeah, and just following up on the chairman's kind of wrap up there, I agree with all that. And so my thought is I'll come back to you with a couple variations of green and certainly at least one variation of olive. As I mentioned, olive, there were a couple of council districts that are blended since we had to go from 7 to 5. So I can come back with another version that blends them differently, that has the same key idea and see if it, if you have a preference between those two. And like I said, we'll prepare for the November meeting. So we're ready. If one of those maps nails it on the dot and you all like it, you'll be ready to adopt. But you can certainly come back and do another discussion like you just did and say, let's take one more shot at it.
And then Doug, I know that we didn't have the most raucous crowd at the public meeting, but what sort of input and feedback did we get at that meeting, and how was that incorporated into this?
So it was a very interesting discussion with the gentleman who showed up. And actually he used to work for the Santa Clara Valley Water, where I've also done this work. So about half the discussion ended up being about Santa Clara. But the one kind of key takeaway that I took from that discussion was we got into the satellite image and looked at that a lot. And he was really differentiating between kind of the Rio de Mar, La Selva, rural, and then small farms versus the as he put it, the hard ag, or the larger farms that are in the Monterey County part of the district. So he was looking at those as two different communities. But he didn't really have any input on where the lines went in the city.
He's right, though. I think that's something that we should keep in mind in terms of property taxes and those sorts of things, right? In that community of interest in industries in that sort of fashion. So that's good. That's great.
Yeah, and actually the olive and green maps that you picked are the ones that come closest to following it, what he wanted with having,
Right.
a southern versus the coastal range is split into two or in three. So those two types of ag are separated.
Right. Okay, there's no other feedback. We've already opened up the public comment, close it, then I'll close down this and let Doug enjoy his Wednesday night. Okay, thank you, Doug.
Sounds good. Thank you all. See you soon.
Okay, so that concludes our public hearing. Item number 6, now we're gonna go back to our consent agenda. We have 5 items on tonight's consent agenda. Item number 1 is the minutes approval for our previous meeting on September 24th, 2025. Item number 2 is our Chief Financial Officer monthly financial performance update, which we received, which the board of the Watsonville Community Hospital received in a previous meeting. Number 3 is the 2026 budget update, an update that the board of the Watsonville Community Hospital received in a previous meeting. Number 4 is the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District 2026 board meeting calendar. And number 5 is the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District project board member appointment approval recommendations. Any questions about any of these 5 items for staff before I open up to public comment? Okay, seeing no questions, I will open it up to public comment. Anyone online wishing to speak on any of these items?
Now hands online.
Okay, anyone in person? Okay, seeing none, I'll close down the public comment and I'll entertain an appropriate motion from the board.
I'll move approval of consent.
Okay, can I get a second? Thank you.
Second. Thank you, Director Pimentel and Creel. I will take the roll on this item. Director Fox? Yes. Director Creel?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yes.
Director Pimentel?
Yes.
Chairman Hughes.
Yes, okay, thank you. We'll now move on to our discussion items. We have 2 items tonight. First is item number 7, the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District External Partnerships Update. And the recommendation is to receive and file. And I believe Steve will tee it up for us, and then Alex and I will give some additional context.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Nunez. So, as you'll recall, on August 27th, the board passed a motion to create an external partnerships ad hoc committee for the exploration of potential strategic partnerships for the healthcare district for the run of our hospital. And that motion passed, and the ad hoc committee has subsequently met with staff at the end of August to discuss the guiding principles, update those guiding principles, which were then passed by the board on September 3rd. Since then, the ad hoc committee has met approximately 8 times to discuss potential partnership opportunities and how best to move forward. And there is nothing for approval or discussion at this point. We're not there yet, but there are some general updates that I think Directors Nunez and Creel would like to give based on what the ad hoc committee has seen and explored so far.
Yeah, so like Steve said, we've since the establishment of the ad hoc committee, Alex, myself, and members of the executive team have met 8 times since then, and so the work continues. I think very shortly after our first meeting, to go over timelines, to go over potential partners and who to reach out to, we set up a weekly meeting, which we've held and maintained, and that's been very helpful for us to stay on course and for us to discuss different items that are coming to us and potential things that we're hearing as well. So as the board report that we prepared for y'all today says, it's still premature for us to come and with a recommendation or with a substantial update. But conversations have been ongoing with with those potential partners who were included in the board report. I'm happy to speak them out loud as well. This includes, but is not limited to, Kaiser Permanente, Dignity Health Common Spirit, Sutter Health, Stanford, Community Hospital of Monterey Peninsula, so CHOMP, and the County of Santa Cruz. So several of those organizations have been happy to speak with us, and so many of those conversations have gone well. And some of them have gone so well that they're have asked to schedule a tour and to do their due diligence of what a potential partnership or management services agreement or something like that might entail. And so there was likely some sort of staff communication that went out recently about the potential for visits happening over the next few weeks, and visitors coming in and trying to get to know the lay of the land at the hospital, both the offices and the part of the campus that is currently in use, and then the other part of the campus that is not in use. So the acreage that's available, and also some of the vacant MOB space as well that's on the campus. I can talk kind of the next steps or the future meetings and the sort of pace at which I would like with the ad hoc committee approval to bring things before the board to for a more substantial kind of formal update and report to the board. And then I'll ask Alex if she wants to add anything as well, and then I'll open it up to questions from the board, and then we can take some public comment as well. So it is at this point not likely for us to come back in November with a substantial update or a formal report about what the future might look like. But we are thinking that in December, it will make sense for us to come back and say, these are the sort of things that we have discussed with potential partners. Which one of them, here's our recommendation of the one that is more appealing and we feel, puts us on the right path in order to continue to expand healthcare services here and to put us on a sustainable path for the future. And here are the other, also the other potential partnerships for potential initiatives that, people also came to us as well that might not have been the right fit for us at this time. And so I'm really shooting for the December meeting, which would be December 17th, to bring a more substantial formal update to the board that would allow us to react to something and to actually give some feedback and and to be able to ask questions of what the next few months looks like. I think if things go well, we're looking at late Q1 for a potential agreement or term sheet to come to the board for approval. And so that would be sometime February, March, around that time is what we expect or are kind of thinking might make sense for the timeline of which we're on with a few different partners right now. And what that would look like in between that December meeting of allowing you guys to for the full board and the public to have a more substantial kind of formal update about where we're at and what the immediate future looks like and the long-term future might look like. In between that December update and then a potential agreement coming to the board for approval and discussion, we would like to continue to do some of the community education component that I know that our communication team has started to do with our board individually, letting them know that, with the information that has been publicly communicated to all of you, and the ultimate goals that we set through the guiding principles, that we would like to go out and to conduct presentations with some of our community groups, with some of our partners who have been here with us since 2022, heck, even back before then. So that's the sort of timing that I'd like us to keep is formal report in December, continued outreach and education to our community, definitely from the ad hoc committee, but also from our board members. If the rest of the board also has time to discuss or to present what has been publicly made available to all of you as well, and what could come from this initiative. And then sometime in late Q1 to bring forth a substantial agreement to us to actually consider. And before that, have the community have in a enough time to look at, react to, and then give us feedback on what it is that might come to the board for approval. I'm thinking anywhere from a month plus, so that all of the folks who are interested, have been our partners, have supported, can look at it, and so that we as a board can understand what it is that we might be voting on, and to be able to do that sort of public education as to why this might be a good agreement for the hospital, for the district, and for healthcare in our region. So again, still not the right time, I think, for us to bring forward something at this time, but there are really great discussions happening. Like I said before, there will be tours from with some of our partners who are interested in what the board has approved the ad hoc committee to go after. And so with that being said, I'll open up to Alex if she wants to add anything else to that. And then open up to any questions for the board before I open up to public comment. Questions? Okay, I will open up to public comment. Anyone online wishing to speak about this item?
Okay, I'm online.
Okay, anyone in person wishing to speak about this item? Okay, seeing none, I close down the public comment and bring it back to the board. There's no action needs to be taken, but if there's any comments or anything that just jumped into your mind in terms of questions that you'd like to ask of me or Alex or of Steve and Julie through this process at this time, just please.
The timing you mentioned, Q1 2026,
Mhm.
January, February, March. Is there something uniquely special, or is it just the nature of the process, the time it takes? That's why we're looking at that quarter.
Yes, yeah, just the nature of the process and the time that it takes to get the necessary approvals from potential partners. And then also understanding that, you know, in order for me, and I know Alex feels this way as well, for us as board members to bring something forward to board members, that you'll have enough time to digest, to ask questions, to give comments, that sort of stuff. You know, being respectful of that timeline as well. And so that's why it makes sense both for the process of the potential partner, but then also the process that I would like this board to have as well throughout that, throughout the consideration of a potential agreement. Thank you. Yeah. Any other questions? Any comments?
Thank you
Okay, yeah, thank you.
for all the time.
It's good work. It's important work. And we've had some really great voices throughout this entire time. So just appreciate everyone's work. And there's no other questions or comments there. I'll just wrap up by saying that, you know, all the folks that have been, you know, providing a voice for the ad hoc committee, and all the folks that have been helping Alex and myself and the executive team through this process. Just really, you know, big thank you. And it's really helped us narrow down from this huge, massive list of people that we could, well, not massive, but this big list of people that we could potentially partner with. Obviously, you know, in the guiding principles, we said people practicing healthcare in this region or in Northern California that are nonprofits. And so, you know, that list is not humongous, but it is still substantial. And so there was a lot of ways that we could have taken this, and just appreciate everyone's work to get us to the point that we're at right now. And I feel like we're very close to bringing something to the board for review and comment at a future meeting. Okay, with that, I'll move us on to item number 8. This is the new memorandum of understanding with the County of Santa Cruz to establish roles and responsibilities for participation in State of California's voluntary rate range program. We have two recommendations in this motion. One is to approve a memorandum of understanding with the County of Santa Cruz to establish roles and responsibilities for participation in the State of California's voluntary rate range program through intergovernmental transfers to the Department of Healthcare Services, and 2, authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to sign the MOU on behalf of the Baja Valley Healthcare District. Julie, whenever you're ready.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
And just a comment, just acknowledging this is an agreement with my employer and just saying that I have had. We have very clear lines of delineation where I work and I am not involved in any respect. The negotiations or process of agreements such as this. So I'm reading this, and getting this at the same time as you are.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you. You kind of outlined that the county just continues to be a wonderful partner to us. And so I want to just start by, thanking the county and also thanking Allison Violante. She, through her contacts and her knowledge and kind of her ability to just learn quickly when something new is thrown our way. She's been very instrumental in helping to pull this together. So as a reminder, part of the voluntary rate range program is where we, the district, sends funds up to DHCS and through an intergovernmental transfer, and they combine the funds with federal matching dollars and distribute those payments back to us through our managed Medi-Cal plan, which would be the Alliance. And we qualify to participate in these programs because we're a special purpose district. So the Santa Cruz County has offered to provide us a temporary advance of the exact amount of the invoice is $599,438 to make that initial payment that is going to be used to draw down the matching funds. They've done this not as a loan, not as a debt obligation, just as a temporary advance. And they would make that payment for us shortly here in November. And then when we receive the payment of approximately $1.4 million in February, we will reimburse the county their $599,438. And we will keep the net proceeds. And as you stated, we're asking the board to authorize Steve to execute this memorandum of understanding with the county. And it really just establishes that they're going to make the payment, we're going to pay them back, kind of the roles and responsibilities. So a very simplified, short MOU to show us what this transaction's all about. And so thank you again to the county and to Allison for bringing this forward to us and making this possible.
Fantastic. Any questions for Julie about this item? Okay, I do have to open up to public comment. Anyone online wishing to speak on this item?
No hands online.
Anyone in person? Okay, seeing none, any comments or questions for Julie or for Allison before, or I can also entertain a appropriate motion on this item?
A comment and then I'll move staff's recommendation, and my comment is just appreciate all the staff time. I thought the agreement was very elegant. It was very thoughtful about not impacting our current cash flow and the lack thereof. So it's a very well done implement. Good program. Looking forward to it.
Second.
Thank you, Director Pimentel and Gallagher. I'll take roll on this item. Director Cox? Yes. Director Creel? Yes. Director Gallagher?
Yeah.
Director Pimentel?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I will adjourn this for the night. Thank you.
Well,